Welcome back, Heat Seekers. We are here helping you get ready for week 3. We're going to do some tiered setups for your tight ends to help give you an idea of who are the top plays, some good plays, some sleepers, and then whatever's left over. As always, like, subscribe, hit the notification icon. If you want to see the written version of this with graphics and everything, rotoheat.com is the place you want to go for it. With that being said, let's get into it. Rick, who's the first tight end you want to talk about?
Well, let's just go ahead and make this easy on ourselves. I think we just throw Waller and Kelce in the tight end 1 overall upside and call it a day for that little section that we've got there.
That does make a lot of sense. There's, those are the guys you're always putting in your lineups. I think, and I think another one we need to have in consideration, obviously, would be, the Kittles and Hawk and Fant. Those guys are all high-end tight end ones as well. But those guys are, tight end 1 upsides where Waller and Kelce are true number 1s. What do you think about some of those next tier of guys, Kittle, Hawk, Fant?
I think those are all tight end 1 upside. I just think there's a huge gap on a week-to-week basis right now between Kelce, Waller, and the rest of the tight ends. We haven't seen Kittle get used like he did a couple years ago for a while now, and I think with Debo healthy, if Ayuk gets worked back in, that's only going to make it harder on him, which sucks because he's obviously a beast, but the production hasn't been there yet. But I mean, he would still be my number 3 or 4 because I think Hawk has obviously moved in there, but not quite to their level. So we had Kittle, Hockenson.
And I had mentioned Fant as well as a guy who's getting it. Hockenson's bottom row, third one over. I should say second one over. And one that we probably need to have as tight end 1 overall is a guy who's, I think, number 2. Gronkowski. Do you think he's got that on a week-to-week basis, or is he just a tight end 1?
I would have him in tight end 1. I wouldn't put him up there with Kelce and Waller because he doesn't get the volume. And eventually, I mean, he's not going to score us 2 every week. And if he doesn't score, he doesn't get the volume that these other guys get. So, I mean, Waller and Kelce, week 2 was a little bit weird for Waller after 19 targets in week 1. He ended up getting us to double-digit points late in the game, but he was missing for the first half. But I mean, those guys are wide receivers playing tight end. And Gronk, while he's had the 4 touchdowns so far, doesn't belong in a category with those guys. But it looks like he is a guy that you want to start week to week. So I'd be fine putting him in the tight end 1 category.
Okay.
Probably at the top so far.
I'm about to say, yeah, he's probably up there at the top. The tough thing for me with him is he's not going to put up 2 touchdowns a week, and that's really what's putting him over the top.
Yep.
The next one up is probably a solid tight end 1 upside, and that's Logan Thomas from Washington. He appears to be quarterback proof. I mean, he's still getting you double-digit or right around double-digit points each week. So I'd feel good about him as a TE1. What do you say?
Yeah, he's right in there. Volume wise, he's going to get you points, and that's pretty good. I think that we can throw Mark Andrews in that conversation as well.
Yeah, he's like Kittle. He's kind of dipped this year, and we've not seen the big production that we're used to. But he's a TE1.
So who would you rather start, Andrews or Thomas?
Right now, I'm starting Thomas over. This week in week 3, he's going against Detroit. No, I would start Andrews over Thomas week 3 against Detroit. Thomas has a tougher matchup because they're going against Buffalo.
All right. What about Dallas Goddard there in Philly?
Yeah, he's a TE1 easily for me. Although he had a rough week too. He's coming back against the Cowboys, so he's going to have a good week.
Good spot for him. Where would you have him with these other tight end 1s here?
Thomas is probably, because of the matchup, he's probably the lowest end tight end 1 for me, at least of what we've got so far. And the tough thing, the one that I keep looking at on this list is Kittle. I mean, he's not got the best matchup for a tight end this week, so I feel like I would start Goddard over, over Andrew or over Fant and Kittle, but not over Andrews.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm not going to look at the matchups and not start Kittle because of the matchups, because we know he can go off any week.
So you would start Kittle over Goddard still?
Yeah, I mean, literally, Kittle would be the third guy that I would have in my lineup if I was looking at all these. The matchup's not going to change anything for Kittle for me. Okay. But we just know that he could have the week where he goes, 9 receptions for 100 yards and a score, and it doesn't matter who that is. It's just we haven't seen it yet this year. Until we see it for a long enough stretch, I'm going to just assume that can pop up on a week-to-week basis.
And he probably will this week. I mean, he's facing Green Bay. It's a good tight end matchup.
Let's see.
How about darling Juwan Johnson? He had a huge week 1 against Green Bay and then kind of fell off against the Panthers, but then he comes back against the Patriots. Do you think he gets you sleeper value, tight end 1? Where's he at for you?
He's a guy that I don't even want to start, which, why don't we just go ahead and delete this row and delete this row? I don't even want to start Juwan Johnson. He barely got targeted week 1. It just happened to be a couple touchdowns. Troutman running more routes and everything. But I just think that right now I want to stay away from both of those guys in New Orleans. And I don't want to start them unless I absolutely have to.
I'm okay with that.
If we want to talk a sleeper, I think that Cole Kmet goes in that sleeper combo. Got a lot of usage in week 1. Week 2 was just such a weird week with the quarterback injury, everything that happened there. Mm-hmm. And they didn't move the ball very well. But I think no matter what quarterback's in there, I think the tight end is a big part of the game plan in Chicago. So not a guy that I want to start if I don't have to, but a guy that I think could end up popping if everything works out this week.
Absolutely. All right. So looking at this, we haven't talked about, why don't we talk about Pitts? You're moving him around right now. He is currently kind of on the outside of the conversation a little bit when it comes to, tight end 1 upside for me. I struggle with the matchup. I mean, he's going against the Giants, and I feel like he should do well enough, but he's a rookie, and it's been a rocky road. So I want to put him as like a back-end tight end 1, but I'm struggling with it. What do you think about Pitts?
I think right now you have to have him in there. I think I would
okay.
Everybody knows that before the year I was saying Pitts was getting drafted too high. We haven't seen the huge week out of him yet, but he's getting targeted. Now it's on the offense to put him in a position to score some touchdowns to really put that over the top. Mm-hmm. So I think he's definitely got to be in that tight end 1 upside category. And I think that you can make arguments for him over everybody, but from Fant on.
I like it. Sounds good to me.
Hooper with Landry out and Odell up in the air, Hooper could get targeted a lot this week. I think even though I don't love the talent, I don't like him as much as a lot of these guys that we have in the tight end 1 upside, but the usage could just be massive for him this week. I would have him in the tight end 1 upside.
You're starting him over Njoku of the Cleveland tight ends? Is that what you're thinking?
I think I would.
Okay. I would definitely, I would probably agree with you because at least as of recently, but when you look at when you look at them on the leaderboards, I think they're like neck and neck, Njoku and Hooper. Hooper had a lower week 1 than Njoku, where week 2 Hooper was higher than Njoku when it came to target shares. Chicago. So you're the Chicago guy. What's this matchup look like for tight ends? Is this a good matchup for tight end?
Like I said, if volume's going to be there, I don't care about the matchup. And maybe both of these guys are startable this week. Maybe they both belong in sleeper because we don't know which one. I know Bryant even got some action. Volume matters over matchup. If they're going to get volume, then especially at tight end where you don't normally get that. The matchup goes out the window. Bears, obviously, linebacker is one of their strengths on D, but I'm not going to, Higbee ripped them up.
For now.
I would start both of those above Kmet.
Sounds good to me.
Where are you going next?
I'm about to say, what about the Dallas tight end? So they've kind of been hit or miss. Both of them are tight end twos right now. It looks like, week one, Dalton Schultz was kind of the guy they targeted the most. And then week two, as Jarwin's been coming back from injury, he still saw the same amount of targets, or same amount of catches, 3 catches each week. But he was the most useful. Philly's defense hasn't been bad against the pass. Dallas hasn't been really focusing on the tight end as much. I'm really thinking that both of them are kind of sleepers, and that's maybe where if we're lucky, I struggle with them both.
Yeah, I would rather not start either of them just because I have no idea
who's going to be the guy.
Who's going to be the guy. But it does make it a little bit easier to do with Gallup out. So I can see both of them being, sleepers just because of that offense. And if one of them does get a touchdown, then, they're going to give us some value, but it's not something I'm comfortable with.
I like it.
Somebody I am comfortable putting in there is Jared Cook. I would say that he is in the tight end one. It was funny, right? Because any tight end has tight end one upside on any given week. But if I'm talking about guys that I'm comfortable starting, Jared Cook is in that conversation for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's, I think you can expect somewhere in the 5 to 6, 7 target a game range. And he does a good job bringing them down. So I'd be okay with back end tight end one for sure.
Where are you going with the next guy? I don't think there's a lot more that we have to talk about. But
no, I mean, when you look at what's out there for tight ends, you've got Dawson Knox from Buffalo, who is not getting targeted a lot, but produced fantasy points. I think he's like a tight end 2 right now. If you look at kind of overall points, I'm not super comfortable starting him this week. I would leave him off the list. If Jack Doyle from Indy is another tight end that's been getting targeted a little bit, but I'm not super comfortable starting him. I don't, at this point, I don't know that there's a tight end on this list. Tonyan and Everett are the only 2 that I'm really interested in getting in my lineups, and that's probably sleeper value for Everett, and Tonyan has upside for tight end 1. I mean, he produced against Detroit this week, but struggled week 1 like the rest of them.
Yeah, I think that Tonyan has to be in the tight end 1 upside category. I think that Higbee probably has to be in there. Towards the back end, and Engram, I think, is up there with Goddard and Pitts if he's healthy. I don't know if he's going to play this week. I haven't heard that he's out, but he's going to get targeted. They target him a lot. He had problems catching the ball last year, but we see guys like Deontay Johnson come back after that same issue last year and get targeted. We saw Chase, who couldn't catch the ball in preseason, but has 2 touchdowns already in his career. Those 3 guys are all guys that I think belong in the tight end 1 upside, ahead of, like, I'm starting all those guys ahead of Hooper. If I can.
Agree.
So Higbee's the iffy one for me because he has big weeks and we saw big stretches, but like sometimes just disappears. Yeah, you said Doyle is sleeper. I think he belongs in there.
He's a floor guy. I mean, you're probably getting 5-ish targets a week for him, and he's probably catching 4 of them for 50 yards.
Everett early in week 1, I thought, hell yeah, this is going to be good. And I don't think there's been a whole lot since like the middle of the second quarter of the first game. So I think he belongs in sleeper. I think Ertz, just because if he's on the field, he could catch a touchdown, belongs in sleeper.
What are you doing with the New England tight ends? They're both kind of tight end 2 range right now.
They would both be in sleeper for me just because they're kind of cannibalizing each other. If one of them does catch a touchdown on a given week, then they could find themselves in as a tight end 1. But I don't feel comfortable starting either of them at this point if I don't have to.
Yep. And the rest of these guys, I mean, and there's talented guys on this list that we haven't touched on, but they just haven't been producing in their offenses right now. I mean, even one that is Max Williams from Arizona, I'm not starting him just because he had one good week.
Yeah, that one's one to keep an eye on. People forget that Max Williams was the first tight end taken in his class, was buried in Baltimore for a while, and then has bounced around. But if he's found a spot, we've seen Dan Arnold, have some value in that offense but spike weeks, right? Not consistently. Oh, Mike Gesicki, we need to talk about here. I think he belongs in the tight end 1 upside category. This was a guy that was pretty good last year, but right now they've had some trouble there with Tua getting hurt. But I feel like he's at least got to be at the top of the sleepers or bottom of the tight end 1 upside.
Yeah, I mean, I would be good with sleeper, at least at this point, until we see the team actually use them. I mean, this year's just been rough, and if Tua's out and it's Brissett, yeah, that's a scary one, as good as he is.
All right. Well, I think obviously that is about it that I feel comfortable talking about and ranking here. If you want to be less, if you want to be like basketball and let anybody into the Hall of Fame, I think they inducted 16 of them this year. Baseball, you might have 0, but if you want to add more people to that tight end 1 overall upside, I do think you can consider the first 3 guys on the tight end 1 upside category. But this is about the way that I would have them. If I had multiples of them, I would start in this order pretty much. Maybe Pitts over Goddard. But that's it. Yeah. Send us out, Brad.
All right. So if you guys have questions, make sure you comment below. We're answering them. We're in those chats helping you. If you want to find the written form, like I said, rotoheat.com. If you have questions, come back Sunday morning to the Boomer Bust Show. You can get some live feedback immediately before your games start. And as always, we thank you guys for everything you're doing. Like, subscribe, do all the things we ask you to do when you see our faces. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.